everyone. Welcome to this session of Win-Loss Week. I'm Andrew Peterson, co-founder and co-CEO of Clozd, and I am really fortunate to be joined today by Libby Adams, the co-founder of Alteryx. And we're going to have a fun conversation today talking about your experiences building an amazing tech company and your involvement over the last couple of years with Clozd, and some of the interesting developments with AI and the data analytics and win-loss analysis arenas. And so I'm really excited to dive into conversation with you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
So I want to make sure the audience knows a little bit about you. And so obviously back in 1997, you started Alteryx. And in 2017, you guys took the company public. And I believe you had a peak market cap at one point of $10 billion. Earlier, just a few years ago, you hit $1 billion in revenue. And so you've had just an absolutely epic run in tech. And like I often tell people, you're one of a few female founders in tech that have ended up taking their company public. And so I think it'll be really fun for listeners to hear a little bit about that journey. So first off, to kick things off, reflecting on that journey, obviously setting aside all the commercial success that Alteryx has had, what are some of the things that you're most proud of looking back?
Oh, that is so easy, Andrew, because the first thing is the fact that going from 0 in revenue to $1 billion in revenue, we never lost sight of what got us there, which was our customers. Customers are the most important asset, followed very closely by employees. And so customer engagement, customer focus was what we thrived on. That being said, customers also paid us back because they told us so many times, and whenever somebody would tell me this, it would give me goosebumps, that our employees are so engaged in their success, in that customer success, that our teams were willing to help, engage, bring in the right talent, bring in the right resources to help figure out a question, a problem, how do we get something done? And so those are probably the two things that really resonate with me as I think about that 27, 28-year journey that I had, was the role that customers played.
Yeah. Looking back, is there anything you feel like you did that was really effective to drive a really customer-obsessed culture like that?
Oh, it started right at the top of the organization. My two business partners and I all were always talking about customers. We were always out visiting customers. We would bring back those conversations into the product team, into the marketing team, into the customer support team. All the teams had access to our customers. We never closed off that ability for teams to hear firsthand what our user community was experiencing from us as a company and from our technology. And I think when it starts at the top, there's no place else. You can't go any higher than that. But we were definitely obsessed with our customers and the work they were doing, the successes they were having, the problems they were seeing that they needed to solve.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we all know that there aren't enough female-founded tech companies. There's not enough investment into female-founded companies. Looking back on your journey, what do you think was special or unique or important about the mindset that you had as a female founder that helped you be so successful in an era where there were very few?
And it's interesting, Andrew, the way that that question is being asked is from day one, it was never a question of female versus male. We were all in this together. We were either going to win together or we were not going to win together. And in working with Dean Stoker and Ned Harding, my two co-founding partners, we were all coming to the table. We were all bringing our expertise. We were all bringing our experiences. We were also bringing our hard work. And I think that played a huge part in the conversation was the work ethic that we all had. We were not afraid of hard work. We were not afraid of taking on new challenges. I mean, I remember some of the meetings. 2001, I was going to Ford Motor in Dearborn, Michigan. And I'm walking into the building and I'm thinking, what in the world am I doing walking into Ford Motor with a potential solution for them? Ford Motor is still an Alteryx customer today.
Yeah. Wow.
And so in those conversations, coming back to your original part of the question about male and female, I don't look at problem solving as who's solving it. I look at it as who is most equipped to solve it. And so we've got to get our focus on ensuring that people are equipped in the work that they do and the jobs that we're giving them and the jobs that they're taking on. And I always say, don't be afraid of hard work. You know better than anyone.
That's awesome. It's great. I think that's great advice for women who are aspiring to start businesses to
Yes.
kind of try to channel that same mindset. So now, just a few months ago, you got special recognition. You were awarded an honorary PhD from Queen's University Belfast.
Yes.
It was presented to you by Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome and well-deserved. And it came as a result, in large part, to work that you've been doing, the last 5-6 years in particular around Alteryx's Spark Ed program, where you're trying to bring data analytics, education, and tooling and skills to learners, especially university students. So why don't you take a little bit of time to tell us about that program and why you've been so passionate about democratizing data analytics?
And that is exactly the right phrase. We have to make sure that our workforce of really today and tomorrow is ready for the work that we as businesses have and need to get done. And we were seeing that there was a gap in what education, specifically in the classroom, was teaching and how they were teaching data analytics. And so to your point about 6 years ago, we said, okay, spreadsheets are not going to work anymore. And not every data analyst needs to be a coder, because that was kind of the two roads that educational institutions were teaching. And so we took on this initiative, the Alteryx Spark Education Program, to be able to put our technology in the classroom with educators that were willing to, learn and teach with modern data analytics. And so we, about 6 years ago, started offering it to higher ed institutions. And then we had people come to us and say, well, I have this job in retail right now, but I really would prefer to be a data analyst. So we opened it up to any learner. And so we provide free licenses to the software. And it gives the educational institutions a chance to teach skills that employers are hiring for today. And these are skills that are in demand. And it also gives the learner that chance to get the job done faster. As I always say, no one wants to get their PhD in spreadsheets. It just doesn't work anymore. And so the data's too big, and the questions are way more complex than spreadsheets were ever designed to handle. And so we put Alteryx in place. We put the Sparked Education Program in place. And so as of the end of 2024, the Sparked Education Program has donated over $75 million in-kind donations of software to learners.
Yeah. All over the world, too.
All over the world.
Something like 700 universities.
Yes.
40 plus countries.
Yes.
It's staggering.
Yes.
It's amazing.
And so employers can hire talent because these learners are also have access to the certification program. So they're able to brag about their skills by posting the fact that they are data analytics certified, and then helps them get a job because their CV differentiates them, or their LinkedIn profile allows them to be found by employers that are looking for these skills.
Amazing. Well, congratulations. And that brings us to Clozd. You have this illustrious career. You've done all these big things, and then you hear about a little company called Clozd, providing a solution for win-loss analysis. And we got introduced through the Graycroft Go-to-Market Council. And what is it that, looking back on our early conversations and what you learned about Clozd, what is it that kind of captured your attention and made you interested in being part of the Clozd journey and being a member of our board of directors?
Well, and it's interesting you say that, because when I first met you and Spencer, you guys reminded me of the energy that Dean, Ned, and I had when we were starting. And we were founders in similar ways in that we know the business. We understood what we were building. We understood why we were building it. So my conversations with you and Spencer were really about the business and how and why you guys have set this up, and then into the details of how users are actually using the technology. That ability to understand the business really lights me up. And I can think back, and we've shared some stories of that ability to build the journey and also craft the market, be a kind of a spearhead in the market and where we're going to take and where Clozd is going to take the win-loss marketplace and how that's going to scale across the enterprise.
Yeah. And you talked earlier about the importance of customer obsession, and obviously, go-to-market teams and executive teams that are obsessed with their customer success and meeting their prospects' needs would naturally have a deep interest or concern about why they're winning and losing deals, and would want a solution to better understand that. And you and I have had several conversations through the years about how win-loss analysis is interesting because it's inconsistent across organizations who takes ownership of win-loss analysis and who really champions and operates the win-loss analysis process for their organization. Sometimes it's a marketing organization, sometimes it's a sales organization, sometimes it's a product organization that may be skeptical of what they're hearing from sales, and they want direct customer feedback about why deals are won and lost. So different organizations allocate different teams and resources to win-loss analysis, but ultimately they all need it. I'd be curious, in your experience as a founder, as an executive, where should win-loss analysis sit within an organization, and who should own it?
Great question, because I'll say, I think every person in the C-suite should be hungry for the information, should be hungry for the results, because whether you're in product, whether you're a chief product officer, a chief revenue officer, a chief finance officer, to understand what your customers are experiencing is so critical to how the organization operates. Because if all the wheels on the bus are not going at the same speed at the same time, that's going to create a not so great user customer experience. From an ownership perspective, that question, I believe, it should be owned either by the CRO, and this of course will vary by organization, owned by the CRO or owned by the chief product officer, but it has to be endorsed by the CEO. Because with that endorsement from the CEO, you then have every team paying attention to what works, what is working, and what is not working. Because we all know that sales isn't losing a deal just because of something that the salesperson did or said. It has to do with product. It has to do with, I remember conversations with the legal team. The legal team has to get involved, and the sales experience is the legal team doing enough, or are they doing too much? And so every person in the C-suite plays a role in that journey, from prospect all the way through to longtime customer. So I like to see a closed relationship or a win-loss relationship owned by CRO or CPO with the endorsement of the CEO.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. We've seen amongst our client base that in some cases there's very strong top-down endorsement of win-loss analysis, and there are different results for the organizations that have that versus some companies where it's very much a bottoms-up initiative. There are people lower in the organization, product marketing managers, competitive intelligence analysts, sales managers, product managers who are like, I need this data, and they're pushing the initiative up and maybe meeting resistance or may have constrained resources, and because it's not top-down from the CEO, sometimes they struggle a bit to get the resources that they need to be successful or to get the ear of those at the executive level that could go and actually implement the changes that will drive better outcomes for the business, like higher sales win rates. We have telecommunications customers who, constantly hear that, there's a brand perception that their network's not as strong. And, how does someone low in the organization do anything about that? That has to be a very coordinated effort from the executive team on down to really make an impact in brand perception around the strength of their network. Or software companies that receive consistent feedback that the user experience and interface is poor, and that's why they're losing deals, and it's difficult for a sales manager or product marketing manager to do anything about that. So we have seen time and time again that top-down buy-in, that executive sponsorship of the programs is absolutely critical.
And I also will add on that when you're enabling top and bottom line impact, you've got to have the eyes and ears of those people at that C level that actually own that responsibility. And so it becomes a team effort. But as you said, when you've got the top, the quarterback per se, the CEO saying this is the way we're now going to do things, everybody's going to understand, okay, let's get on board and figure out how we work together to make this happen, to improve the customer's experience of us as an organization.
Awesome. Well, another area that you're seeing some interesting things, given your background, is around AI and this just wave of transformation that's taking place. I imagine that within the realm of data analytics that we're on the precipice of major changes. What are you seeing in terms of how AI is reshaping the data analytics landscape?
I am so excited about where AI is going to go and where it's going to enable us as a human race to be able to do things more effectively and efficiently. But I will also say that I don't want people to panic because AI is not about us losing our jobs. AI is about making us smarter, making us more efficient. It's also going to take any organization that is data ready today or tomorrow, because data is a journey. It's going to make those organizations more ready to embrace AI, because AI is a crawl, walk, run effort. Anybody who says, I'm not doing AI, therefore I've missed the boat, that is not the case at all. This is at least, I'm going to hypothesize that this is at least another 3 to 5 year journey from where we are today. And so we as business people, as business leaders, have to be able to take a step back and say, are we ready with data assets in the organization? And if so, what data assets are we ready to start testing with? And data is a continually evolving asset to any organization. And so this will continue to be a journey. We've got to get business leaders understanding that we need people working on AI initiatives, but it's not going to be about changing something massive. I'm not a big fan of the Big Bang Theory. Let's take something that we're really comfortable with, that we do today manually, and we know what the results are supposed to look like, and let's see if we can take that small nugget and automate that with AI in some way. That's the testing that I believe organization and business leaders are thinking about today. And then as you trust more of those data that are going into those models, then you can make that a little bit bigger and then make that test a little bit bigger after that. But it's going to be a process. It's going to be a journey. I am very, very excited about where AI will go. And everybody's got to get on this journey if they want to be in business in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's not optional.
Yeah. Awesome. And I've heard you talk before about data readiness or organizations that are data ready. And that makes sense to me that, how can you take advantage of AI if your data is not well prepared, if you don't have, the underlying information prepared in the right format or architected the right way for AI to help you interpret and or take action using that data. What is your kind of definition of a data-ready organization? Like, what do companies need to do now to prepare themselves to take full advantage of AI?
We've been talking about, or I've been part of conversations for a number of years about building a data culture, which means essentially that the organization invests in data. They believe data are assets that they own and that the assets that they're generating every day, every second in their business. And in having a data culture, that means from the top of the organization all the way down, people will ask questions, leaders will ask questions of data. We've all heard it, we've all seen it, we've all done it, where we say, I think we should do that. And you say, what's that based on? Oh, it's a gut feel I have. It's too much risk to be basing a big decision on your gut. Or the other one that I love is, well, this is the way we've always done it. But nobody's actually looked at the data. So business leaders that say to their teams, let's look at the data, that's a data culture. And those are the organizations that I believe are setting themselves up for the future or for their future to be a very bright outlook.
Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Thinking back on your career, can you think of any time where there was a decision that seemed like it was universally supported and everybody was kind of on board with it, but when you looked at the underlying data, you've kind of disproved that theory or realized that it was going to be a bad decision, even though intuitively everyone thought it was a good decision, but the data said otherwise?
We never made a bad decision.
That's how you get to 10 billion in market cap. Yeah, you just look at the data.
We did, as a small company, when we were much, much, much smaller at the real startup days, we would think a lot about all sides of questions. I can't go back that far in my brain to remember, decisions that we've verified or validated, but I guarantee you that the way that we thought about things analytically played a big part into our success.
Yeah. I was having a conversation last night actually with my co-founder Spencer Dent and some others, and we were reflecting on an experience we had at a prior company that we were at. Sounds a lot like Qualtrics. And here's an example. We had a sales leader and a founder who both shared the point of view that we should only hire salespeople who had high GPAs. They felt like the product is sophisticated. We need really intelligent sellers that can, communicate at the level of our, whatever, the nature of buyer that we sell to. So there was this strongly held belief in the organization that we could only hire salespeople that performed well academically. Mm-hmm. And then Spencer was involved in running the analytics, and they compared the GPAs of current salespeople in the sales organization relative to quota attainment, and there was no correlation. And so there'd been a lot of, potentially great hires that weren't made, offers that weren't extended to salespeople that might have really succeeded just because their academic record, wasn't on par with what we felt like they needed. So there's one example that comes to mind.
I'll share one quick story with you. And Ned Harding, my business partner, and as I like to refer to him, the genius behind our technological success at Alteryx, didn't graduate from college. So he right there fits right into your formula of, does the GPA prove And the answer is absolutely not. And that's part of the reason why the Sparked program has been so successful, because you don't have to be a college graduate to be good at data analytics. You have to think a certain way, you have to be curious, and you have to ask enough questions. But that does not ensure that you have to have a college degree, and certainly not a certain GPA.
Fascinating. Awesome. Well, last thing I want to talk quickly about is the implications of, the AI evolution, what you've been talking about with crawl, walk, run, and how initial ideal use cases for AI are, proven, repeated manual processes that AI can come in and automate. And when we think about Clozd, we've had these conversations. At Clozd, we have a lot of those. We came into the win-loss analysis space back in 2018 when the predominant solution provider was just a boutique consultancy offering human services to conduct outreach, conduct interviews, and manually summarize insights from those win-loss interviews. And we came in 2017, 18 with the hypothesis that technology could really revolutionize the process and drive a lot of efficiency and make the win-loss feedback collection process much more scalable. And now we're on this journey with AI, realizing that, hey, there are steps in the win-loss process that can be automated now. They couldn't before, but now with the power of these LLMs, they can be, whether it's more intelligent deal selection, having recorded calls from the sales process to analyze and decipher who really was the primary contact at the prospect organization that is going to have the best perspective on why the deal was won or lost, and what is information about what was discussed and which product was evaluated during the sales process that we can use and not be so reliant on questionable CRM data to determine who to reach out to. Or once an interview's been conducted, summarizing that interview effectively and then looking across interviews to find themes and trends that are emerging across a large data set of interviews. And then probably most interestingly, the interview process itself, actually having agent-driven interviews that are much more scalable than human interviews. And I'd love to get your perspective on the likelihood of adoption in the future and the potential benefits of agent-led interviews versus human interviews.
Great question, because the technology already today, and I'm not even talking about a year from now or 2 years from now, but the technology today for an agent-led conversation and the technology's ability to pick up key phrases or key emphasis that the interviewee gives them is going to enable more conversation. It's going to enable the interviewee to not feel the pressure of this person doesn't really want to hear me say this, when it's a human being on the other end listening or transcribing. When it's an agent, you can talk for as long as you want, because there's a mindset of this agent will just collect the data, and I can answer the question as broadly as I want. And so those technologies are going to enable, I think, richer data collection, because people won't feel that pressure of, I need to move along in the conversation. It also enables richer conversations, I think, because of the analytics on the back end, the transcription of the conversation and of the data gathered. It's going to, I think, drive richer insight for your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're excited to be on this journey with you, Libby. We're so privileged to have you on our board of directors at Clozd. Thanks for joining me for this conversation today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.